My name is Laura Severin, and I'm the head of admissions of NUS College. And I'm joined today by Professor Loy, who will be guiding us through the development of NUS College and helping you to understand more of the academic and co-curricular opportunities that will be available to students through NUS College. We know that it should be that most of you who are joining us today have submitted an application to NUS already. So later in the presentation, we will talk a little bit about how you can add to your application to signal interest in NUS College. So stay tuned for more details on that. But I'd like to introduce Prof. Loy and thank him for being here today. So over to you, Loy. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Laura. So a little bit about myself. My other day job, I'm a philosophy professor, and I've been with NUS for quite a long time, actually. And before that, long time ago, I was also a NUS student. And more recently, over the last 10 years or so, I'm deeply involved in the University Scholars Program, one of the two units that is the predecessor to this new thing that we're doing in NUS called NUS College. Now, before I talk about NUS College itself, let me just make sure that we're on the same page about something. So as you all know by now, if you're not sure about this, you can Google for these things yourself. NUS have done very well over the last couple of decades, especially because I actually have a lot of memories of when I was a student, and that's in the previous century. So and NUS has actually become extremely good, not just in research, but also especially we want to make sure that we are pursuing excellence for education as well. One of the things that we are really concerned about, of course, within the last, say, about 10 years is how to make sure that the education that we offer to our students it's not just world class. I mean, that's what people say, right? They like to use that phrase. It's more important that we want to make sure that the kind of education we provide really prepares our graduates for the world that they're going to enter, the world that we really live in. Really, 5-10 years ago, when I give an outreach talk, sometimes we will talk about how we got to prepare for the world of the future where technology is going to be everywhere, and you got to make sure you know your computational thinking, complex problems that demands complex solutions, and got to learn how to work with people from different backgrounds. Guess what? Actually, that world is here. It's not the world of the future. You are living in that world today already. And the fact that we are doing this on Zoom tells you something, isn't it? In the old days, so to speak, we'll just find some chance to gather on campus and all that. But because of the pandemic, we can't do that. But because of newer technology, which has become much easier for us to use today compared to even 5-10 years ago, we can run this thing on Zoom webinar. And in order for this to happen, a lot of things must have happened over the last 5-10 years. A lot of people must have worked together to make something. It's not just a technical issue, by the way, right? The world we live in is a world where, in order for humanity, even in order for you and I, and yourself and the people who are going to come to you to solve the difficulties and the problems that we face, we need to know how to work with each other. We're not just specialists. All of us are going to be specialists to some degree, but even specialists need to work with each other and to be able to add value to the world. So that is part of the background reason as to why NUS has been thinking very hard about how to give at least a certain portion of our students this enhanced kind of education that will really push them further down this road of being able to help solve problems for the world, right? And hence, there is background impetus for the creation of NUS College. Now, in terms of the institutional history, NUS College is formed through the merger of two existing programs, both of which will stop accepting students as of this year. One of them is the Scholars Program. I've been with them for quite some time by now. That's USP. And the other one, of course, is Yale NUS College. Now, there are differences between the two of them. USP is a complementary program for NUS students. So every USP student is also a NUS student pursuing an NUS degree. Yale NUS is a 4-year liberal arts college, right? But nonetheless, they also overlap in many, many ways in terms of the kinds of things that the people who design them want to achieve and the kinds of students that they produce, right? So here we have NUS College, which seeks to provide a flexible interdisciplinary education that is made accessible at greater scale to as more NUS students than USP by itself, or for that matter, Yale NUS by itself. right? We want to integrate the strongest and most distinctive features of the two programs in creating this new thing that will supersede both of them, and that's NUS College. Now, as a nutshell, let me just give you some very basic picture of what it's supposed to be, right? NUS College is an honors college for students to enhance their basic NUS degree. So what that means is that when you are a student in NUS College, you are pursuing an NUS degree. You could be pursuing computing, political science, psychology, chemistry, physics, philosophy, business, you name it. And you will be doing those modules for the primary majors themselves in the respective faculties. But if you're also an NUS College student while being a NUS student, you're not just doing those things, you are also getting an enhanced education that is over and above your NUS basic degree, right? And what is this extra bit, right? We really want to make sure that the students who come through this part of NUS, this college, this NUS college, what we call an honors college by American terms, will provide students with a broad-based interdisciplinary common curriculum, right? Even as they pursue, perhaps as one of 50 majors that's offered by all these different departments and faculties across NUS, and give them access while giving them access to, second majors and minors and all that, right? So we want to make sure that we're able to do this, and we want to do this using small group teaching, rich residential life programs, immersive learning, lots of experiential learning, and a more favorable faculty to student ratio as well, seminar style teaching throughout NUS College, right? So that's the basic picture. So one important thing to remember from this slide here is, if you are an NUS College student, you are an NUS student pursuing an NUS degree in one of these partner faculties. But even as you are doing that, maybe you are pursuing political science, maybe you are pursuing computing, you are getting an extra thing, right? That regular computing students and regular business students are not getting. And now one obvious question you're going to ask is, wait, so you mean I'm going to do extra? You mean, studying for a degree is hard enough. You're asking me to do something extra. Kind of yes and no. Here's the interesting thing about the way the thing works, right? So this is what happens in a typical 4-year degree in NUS. So a big chunk of your 4 years will be spent in modules or courses relating to your primary specialization, what we call your major. And in fact, your major defines your degree. So you don't get to call yourself a psychology degree person, someone holding a psychology degree if your major is not psychology, for instance, right? And political science and computing, computer science, engineering, you name it, right? But typically, NUS students, in order for them to graduate with an NUS degree, you can't just do major, right? We do want all our students to be trained in important foundational competencies. So this is the way that it's being structured. So approximately 1/3 of the 4 years of courses you are doing will be in things that we will call faculty common curriculum. So these are the common courses that are done within the particular faculty. So engineering, for instance, the College of Design Engineering. So students there, their common curriculum will include things that like cut across all of engineering and design, but also general education, which means that these are courses that make sure that all our students have capabilities that cut across essentially all the majors, right? No matter what you study, right? Why does this thing exist? Because we do want to make sure that all our students have important foundational competencies that will prepare them not just to study, but more importantly, to be effective in the world that we live in. So whether be it writing or quantitative reasoning, statistics, or computational reasoning, or even community engagement and all that, right? So that's the second chunk, right? So all NUS students, pretty much, maybe not literally all, but almost all NUS students will have to do major, common curriculum. And then of course, there's also a big chunk, the third chunk is called the unrestricted electives. So this is where you get to choose what you want to do, right? Many students will just use the space to, for random modules that they're interested in. They may hear about a very exciting astronomy module that's being offered in science, and that are, well, in the old days anyway, before the pandemic, involves traveling to Malaysia to watch stars, right? So who doesn't want to do that? So for instance, right, so they may take random modules, they may take languages. Some students may be a little bit more ambitious and say, no, I don't want random modules. I want to pick up 2 minors. And then there are other students that may want to say that, hey, that space is almost as big as a major space. Let me pack a second major in there. maybe I'll do a little bit more. Maybe I will take up a second degree and so what they call a double degree. So that's unrestricted elective. Now, if you are an NUS college student, you're not going to end up doing more courses in order to graduate compared to a regular NUS student. What's going to happen is that a big chunk of your common curriculum and some of your unrestricted electives, you fulfill those requirements through NUS College curriculum, right? So I hope you can see that this is a simple way of saying that in one sense, you don't have to do more in order for you to have an NUS College experience. You will be doing different, right? That's that, which is a different thing, okay? But I also noticed something interesting. So notice that NUS College curriculum straddles both the common curriculum part and the what used to be the unrestricted elective part. Now that tells you something as well. What it means is that our ambition as NUS College is both to give you to give you a more enhanced version of some of those foundational competencies, right, which is covered for by the faculty common curriculum and general education for regular NUS students. But we are taking out some of the unrestricted electives because we expect to use that space to push you further in ways that complement your major. So these are not just foundational competencies anymore. These are things that are a little bit more ambitious than that. So what are the majors and degree programs that are compatible with NUS College? Now you can see on the screen here, there are about 50 of them, right? So if you're thinking of pursuing an NUS degree in any one of these, NUS College is compatible with it. You can do this, you can do law, you can do computing, you can do psychology, you can do Chinese, you can do chemistry, plus NUS College. Okay, so you may, if you need to, you can take a screenshot of this if you really want, but I'm sure this is already on our website as well. Okay, so again, I'm going to emphasize, if you're an NUS College student pursuing any of these degrees, you are pursuing these degrees as NUS degrees. You'll be taking courses in them with the respective departments and faculties that offer them, right? NUS College will not give you this major. We're not in the business of providing majors training. Our ambition is to give you the extra thing that complements your major, that goes beyond your major, okay? Now, what are the objectives of what are the objectives that we hope to achieve through the curriculum, through the program that we're creating? We really want to cultivate students who are ultimately problem solvers, globally minded problem solvers, right? Who are able to not just think in terms of like their own specialization and what they're good at there, but also to think across and ask themselves how they can work with people from different backgrounds, different kinds of specializations, right? Different cultures, and collaborate with them so that they can make a positive impact on the world, right? We also want them to be, well, not just do-gooders, we want them to be critical thinkers, right? So we want them to be not just like, I want to do good stuff, but then, they're not very sharp at it. We want people who are curious and critical and who are able to, think in a very rigorous manner. And to achieve that, we want to make sure that, they have this interdisciplinary education that is also quite experiential. And then, of course, we want them to be the kind of people who want to be positive change makers. So it's no point being the kind of person who is able to solve problems and is able to think critically, but you couldn't care less, right? We want students, we want to cultivate graduates who are really the kind of people that will say, yeah, that's the kind of citizen we want in your society, in your country. That's the kind of people who want to help us build our community and to lead positive change, right? We don't need everyone to be a prime minister. Don't get me wrong, okay, right? But we want people in all walks of life, in all areas and all domains to be the kind of people who say that, what, the reason why I want to be, a problem solver and critical thinker is because I want to add a little plus to the people around me. I want to be able to add some value to my corner, to my community, to the other community, and so on and so forth. So this is the kind of objectives that we have for our students. And to achieve that, we have three main strategies. So of course, there is a formal curriculum, those modules, those courses that we want all our students in NUS College to do. And remember, there's that complements their main major as well. There's a big chunk of it that is going to be experiential. It's not about like learning stuff, through the textbook or something like that, or even reading or listening to people. More importantly, we need you to be able to go out there and do stuff. And then, of course, through a community. that we built on the basis of, we have plenty of experience doing this through both NUS and also USP. Now, let me talk through each of the three. At least, I hope I don't take too much time doing this because I would rather that you guys ask questions, right? Now, formal curriculum consists of 14 courses, right? Half of which are the foundational and common modules, right? So you remember the pie chart just now when I mentioned that you notice that NUS curriculum, NUS College curriculum straddles both a kind of foundational and common curriculum part of the NUS of the 4-year degree, but also something that sits in non-restricted elective. And there's a reason for that. So half of the modules that we want all our NUS College students to do are going to be about, well, competencies, right? Critical competencies. But the other half are things that go beyond. The other half are things that require you to step outside of your comfort zone, go beyond your major, go beyond your specialization, and do things, right? So let me talk through all these different modules very quickly. So in terms of the first 7, so what we have are first 4 competency modules. We have writing module, we have a reasoning with data module. The writing module is quite intense, by the way, right? But it's a very small group, I think like 12 students or something like that, in every semester for one module. So you'll be in small groups, and the rest, I think we're looking at maybe 20, 25 students per class, right? We're looking at a small group, with plenty of hands-on kind of work for you to do. So the second one is quantitative reasoning with data. The third one is social inquiry, right? And the fourth one is a computational problem solving module, right? So the first 4 are critical competencies modules. These are things that everybody's got to know, right? So if you want to be effective citizen out there in the world, it doesn't matter whether you are a literature major, you can't escape from being able to deal with some computing stuff. We don't need you to actually necessarily be a programmer, but you're going to be talking to programmers. Why do you want to be fooled by them? And on the other hand, maybe you are someone who is studying to be a programmer or scientist, but you mean you're going to escape having to deal with words, having to deal with people, having to think in terms of the society around you? No, of course not, right? We want all our students who have all these competencies, okay? Then we also want them to be globally minded. We want them to be well-grounded in, well, not just sort of slightly more humanities thing. So there's one module for that. Slightly more social thought thing. There's a second module for that. And even the connection between science and society. So that's the third item here. Okay, so that's the first 7 modules in the what we call the foundational and the foundational competencies. What about the other 7, right? So the first 6 are called making connections modules. These are all elective. So there's going to be a very large basket of modules, or 2 baskets of modules, humanities and social science one side, and STEM on the other side. And you'll be asked to do from both of them, right? All of them are elective in the sense that you choose which one you want to do, right? By that time, probably you're already in your year 2 and 3 and 4, and you have a lot more opinions about what you want to study in this domain. All of them are going to be all of them are going to be a little bit multi and interdisciplinary, right? All of them are going to involve, again, small group teaching, experiential learning. All of them will be quirky stuff that you probably will not see in your own major, right? So in the scholars program in USP, we have a lot of experience creating these kinds of modules, right? So there may be a physics module, but it's the one physics module that you probably will not find in a regular physics department because it's a physics and philosophy thing, or maybe even a physics and sociology, whatever, right? There could be a module that is run by someone with a biochemistry background, but somehow it's got an econs angle to it. So these are things that we really want to make sure that our students have a chance to experience, right? Multi and interdisciplinary kind of education. And of the 6 modules, one of them can also be the global experience module, which I'll come back to later, okay? Now, there's a 7th module, but I'm not going to talk about that yet. I'm going to move on to the second pillar first, because the 7th module actually is maximal, it's the capstone of this thing. So I said already, the first strategy that we have is the formal curriculum. And I've already breezed us through 13 of the 14 modules already. So before I talk about the 14th module, I'm going to talk about the second pillar first, the second strategy. And that's very key to our mission and our identity is this idea of experiential learning. And by this, we don't just mean students go out there and do stuff and learn from that. You do that all the time, with or without us telling you. All the motivated students are always doing stuff and learning from it. But to make it a conscious and deliberate part of our curriculum, and should I say our program, is to say that no, time and resources are set aside for our students so that they can do this in a deliberate and sometimes even structured way that builds in their own reflection, so that students don't just do and learn in an ad hoc way, but they do and they learn through the reflection, right? The thoughtful process of thinking about what they are doing, right? So this is going to be a very, very important part of our mission and our identity. Again, it's the kind of stuff that we already have a lot of experience within your NUS College and USP, and now we're taking it to the next level. Okay, so, and I'm not saying that somehow only the 14th module is like this, right? Experiential learning is already infused throughout the other modules, but the 14th module is going to be almost like the capstone of this process. Okay, now, but before the 14th module, one more time. So I already mentioned that if you remember, one of the elective modules could be your global experience module. So let me say something about global experience first. One of the ways in which we want to make sure that our students benefit from experiential learning is to make sure that they have a global experience, right? Because it's not just about you doing stuff. We want you to go out there into the world, into other cultures, other settings, other places with very different kinds of people, where you have to order food in a very, well, or maybe you don't have to literally order food in a different language, but still, you'll be running into people who speak different languages. We want them to have that experience and reflect upon it, because it's an important part of learning, and it's exactly the kind of learning that we cannot provide in a classroom. If you're talking about some module, I don't know, in some good American university or whatnot, offering a class, I don't know, econs or physics or whatever, most of the time, actually, we can teach that stuff too, right? If it's just yet more academic thing, NUS is perfectly capable of offering that module. But if what we want you to learn is, this very experience of being in a different culture, having to negotiate a different academic system, encountering different kinds of people who speak very different, who have very different backgrounds, we can't give that to you in a classroom. We need you to step outside and go to a different place if possible. So this is going to be an important part of our requirement. We want to make sure that all our students, or at least as many of them as possible, will have a global experience. And there are different ways that they can achieve this. They can go on regular student exchange, right? And there will be plenty of student exchange arrangements that we made between NUS colleges and colleges around the world, but also across NUS, and your own faculties will also have these arrangements. They can do the NOC program. So this is for students who are very keen on entrepreneurship. They can audition to join the NUS Overseas Colleges program, where you'll be placed in a startup, for a year. It could be in Tel Aviv, it could be in Stockholm, it could be in Beijing, Shanghai, and so on and so forth. Okay. They can also pair these things with a distinctive NUS college creation. So this is called the Global Pathways program. It's an experiential thing, but imagine that where you're going to one of these cities where perhaps your student exchange program is nearby. Maybe you're going to New York. You're going to student exchange in upstate New York. But we have a thing in New York City itself where there's a curated experience for you, where maybe you'll be visiting museums, we'll be having master classes with people, and through that process, you learn something. Okay, so that is a distinctive thing we're creating. I will have more. I think I may have more information about that later. Right. So here it is, Global Pathways. Right. So it is a new program we are creating with the help of NOC actually, but it is not an NOC thing. It is our thing. It's NUS College. Right. So we want students to be able to basically go there and not just sort of stay in a classroom and learn things in the classroom. Depending on what the particular strength of the city is, and there are going to be 6 of these places around the world, and you go there probably either just before or just after the student exchange, you get to do these things, right? So maybe you get to visit these museums, you get to meet certain people and to reflect upon that. You may even have a chance to craft a bit of your own itinerary as well. And every student who goes to this will be supported by a fellowship. So we want to make sure that as many of our students can go as possible. And that means that financial need should not be a barrier, right? We want to make sure that students have that access. So that's the global experience. Now, finally, the 14th module, right? It's called the Impact Experience Project Module, where basically groups of students, teams of students, I'm hearing something like 6 to 8 of them, together will design and plan and execute an impact-oriented project. And there are 4 different pillars that you can choose from. It could be a service project, and many of you may be more familiar with that, kind of a community service. But it can also be creative expression, it can be research, it can be innovation. The main thing is this, right? Even if it's research, even if it's creative expression, it should be kind of impact-oriented. Maybe you are more research-minded. You're not thinking of like doing service. That's just okay. But we hope that the research is not just for five other people around the world to read, not just for other fellow specialists, but it's the kind of research that can feed into, positive impact further downstream, right? Maybe you are thinking of, maybe you are artist type, you want to do creative expression. Wonderful again. But again, we're looking for projects that is not just creative expression for its own sake, but creative expression in the service of impact, right? So here you have 4 different pillars, and students can choose one of the 4 pillars, find your own, you can find your own group members, or you can join the module and look for group members there. And many of them can be done locally, but we will also support international projects as well, or projects that are overseas or regional. And every student will attract funding to do these projects. So where the model we're thinking of is that every student will have a certain baseline of funding, and when you have a group of them, you can pool all that funding together, and you have like several $1,000s, more than several $1,000s to work on a project. But we will probably also set aside competitive funding for people who are even more ambitious. So maybe there's a group, maybe they want to do, let's say they are under innovation, they're hoping to create an app. Maybe the 6 or 8 of them already pool their baseline funding. They have $6,000 to $8,000 ready, but they're thinking that, we're so ambitious. We want to do this. We want to do this in Indonesia, and we think we have a really good idea. You can also apply and compete for additional funding. Okay, so this is going to be the kind of a capstone experience of NUS College. The teams will be housed in a module structure so that you're not just like running all over the place. Where but there will be a class part of it where instructors are going to talk through the whole idea of impact and how to measure impact, how to think about it, and we also have people who have the resources and the connections as well. Okay, so that means that there will be structured activities, there will be faculty advising throughout, there will be peer feedback, there will be dedicated time that's set aside for you to work, right? But otherwise, it's a project. It's not really just for the classroom, right? And then finally, reflection upon the process will be a key component, no matter which pillar you use to do your project. Okay. So in terms of the curriculum and in terms of the experiential learning as well, you can see how roughly this is how it may look in terms of the 4 years. So as the student is pursuing the NUS degree across the 4 years, the student is also working on the NUS College modules and programs, right? Probably, most likely, in fact, for almost everyone, within the first 2 years, the person will finish all 7 of the foundational common competencies modules while the person is in residence. And then, of course, across year 2 and 3 and 4, you'll be working on the making connections, elective modules, the global module. You find some time in year 2 and 3 to go on exchange, and of course, the capstone impact experience project module as well, right? In fact, I just noticed the list is down there below, right? NOC with the global experience module theme. So here we have 5 cities where we're going to host that global pathway thing, right? So Beijing is going to be tech and cultural entrepreneurship focus, right? New York City is going to be media, finance, and diplomacy. And Paris is going to be diplomacy, visual arts, and culture. And Stockholm is going to be environment and climate action. And of course, Toronto is going to be diversity and inclusivity in governance. So all 5 places will have their own curated experience. And then finally, the last but not least part of our strategy will be, of course, the community we want to build, right? And this is built partly through the fact that you will be staying in residence in campus, right? And there'll be financial support for those who need it, especially for the first 2 years, because that's when you'll be doing your common modules. But of course, you can stay beyond the first 2 years as well. And there are many benefits of residential life, but I just want to point out a few important ones, right? So the point here is not that you have a place to stay. The point here is that by staying here, you plug into a peer community of people who are doing courses together with you, working on the very same kind of stuff and working on the same kind of projects as well. you get a lot of amplification of learning, right? So you can tell, there's a joke in the USP where we sometimes say things like, middle of the night, the political science student shouts to the world, I know how to solve the world's problem. Next door neighbor is an engineering student who says, hold on a second, does the math check out? We better check the math. And then further down the path, there is a business student who says, okay, what's our business plan for this, right? We want those things to happen, and they have actually already happened all the time in both USP and also in NUS. So we want to make sure that this can continue, right? Because it's not just about, number one, you stay on campus. It's not just about the fact that, well, you are taking classes, downstairs from where you stay, which is very convenient. But more importantly, is the amplification through the peer networks that you can form while you're working on your projects. And those networks are the ones that are going to give rise to your startups that you're going to found in the future, the kinds of projects you're going to do even beyond the university. And this is going to be an interdisciplinary community. So even in my little joke, which is not really a joke, the fact of the matter is that the 3 students come from different faculties, right? So there's going to be things they can do as a group that people who are all only from the same background will not be able to do. We want to make sure that you have this. And of course, we will build in all the pastoral support, financial aid, and other kinds of support. There is, basically the rigor in today's environment as well. Okay, and this will be a very immersive kind of residential experience. Okay, I think that's all I had to say for now. So Laura, you're going to take over for the admission side? Yeah.
Yes, gladly. Thanks, Loy. Okay, hope everyone's doing all right. If you need to stretch, now's a good time to stretch your arms a little bit. I hope you've been excited about all the information that Prof. Loy has shared with you. It makes me want to go back to school and start over again, but I think that I've aged out and I can't join this program. But okay, we can flip to the next slide. Now that we've learned more about what the NUS College program will look like, what I want to do is talk a little bit about what an NUS College student will look like, and the type of student that we'll be looking for in the admission process. And hopefully some of these characteristics that you'll see on this slide will resonate with you as some qualities that sound familiar to you, that you identify with. So in order to succeed in NUS College, these are some of the identifying markers that we think students will carry with them into the program. I think that you will have noticed through Prof. Loy's talk that the academic program that's being built for NUS College is one that is very interdisciplinary, one that is innovative, one that will require students to think beyond a narrow lane of a single discipline or subject. And so with that, we'd like students to join us who display and have a hunger and an appetite for a wide variety of academic disciplines, who show that intellectual curiosity to want to study beyond the bounds of a single subject. In order to do so, I think you have to have a sense of adventure and innovation. This is the first year that we'll be admitting students into NUS College. And so with that comes a sense of adventure, particularly those who would be joining us in the upcoming academic year. It's a fantastic opportunity to be at the forefront of being the first batch of students, and even those who may be coming a year or two after, still to be part of something brand new. I think one of the things that will be most unique about NUS College, and this is often a question that is asked of us, is how is this really different than other programs, is the fact that together in a classroom will be students from throughout the university. So if we talk about these impact projects, if we talk about the common curriculum within NUS College, it is likely that students from engineering will be working with students from social sciences. And what that means is that you will be challenged to think very differently than perhaps is natural for you, because you'll be working with students who have a very different perspective and a very different way of thinking academically. And so we want students who have a desire to not only be exposed to those who think differently than them, but learn to work together with students who think differently than them. And our goal and our hope is that this will serve you not only in your education, but also upon graduation. As alums of NUS College, this will be something that you can share with potential employers to say, I come from a background where I'm adept at working with people who are very different than me. I've worked on teams from a very interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary background, because oftentimes in the workplace, that's exactly what you need to do. If you're a scientist, it doesn't mean that you work only with scientists. So having had that experience, I think, is very beneficial for graduates. Okay, next slide, please, Loy. So the way in which we will evaluate students for admission to NUS College is based on what we call holistic admissions. And essentially what this means is that we believe that you as individuals are multifaceted people. There's not a single characteristic or marker that identifies you or that tells us who you are and if you are a good fit. There are multiple characteristics, there are multiple markers, there are multiple profiles that tell us more about you. And so through the admission process, we hope to get to know many different sides of you. Obviously, as Prof. Loy shared at the very beginning, NUS College is being built as an honors college, which means that the first and most important thing is that we attract students who have the academic performance and ability to succeed in what will be a rigorous and exciting academic experience. But we also want students who will contribute in meaningful ways, both in and out of the classroom. So we want to understand through the admission process, not only the academic experience and capabilities you bring to NUS College, but also the personal skills and co-curricular involvement and interest that you would bring to the community. It's important to us to understand the ways in which you contribute to your community, the roles you play in small groups, in large groups, the achievements that you've had up until the point that you submit your application, but also recognize that we use your achievements as a sense of the ways in which you'll grow as a university student. And so we're looking not only at your past achievements, but also the opportunity for your continued growth through university. We don't expect that you've stopped growing or learning. And by the time you join university, we expect that you'll continue to grow. And so one of the important things for us is your appetite for growth. And our hope through NUS College is that you have an appetite that is very broad in nature, and that you're not somebody who wants to study a single subject, but that you have that appetite to explore much more widely. Okay, next slide, please. So the way in which we explore this holistic admission process is through a quite extensive review of applicants. The first and most basic part of the application process is the application form itself. And this, most of you today will have already submitted your application form to NUS, and we'll talk about this a bit more as we go. This is probably the most basic part in terms of biographical information. The extra parts that become really important in the holistic admission process are your essays, and we'll talk about what's required of that in just a moment, a letter of recommendation from an academic teacher, and then the interview. Please note that not every student will have an interview. We shortlist candidates for interviews, and the interview is an opportunity for us to sit and have a rather informal conversation with applicants, a way for us to know more about your academic interests, ways in which you contribute to your community, and so forth. Okay, next slide. So in order to apply to NUS College, the application is now integrated into the NUS application. Because NUS College is a new program, it's the application form itself went live a bit later than the overarching NUS application form for the whole of the university. So at this point, anybody who would start an application for NUS today would see within the NUS application, would see the NUS College application embedded into the larger NUS application. Because most of you today have already submitted your NUS application, it is likely that the NUS College section was not there at the time that you submitted your application. And we'll talk about how you can go back and add your NUS College application section in just a minute. But know that the two are embedded together, generally speaking. So there's no need to look for a separate application process, generally speaking. The requirements include academic results. We at NUS College will be looking at the trajectory of a student's academic path. So not looking only at final results. So for instance, if a student is doing IB, we would look at the final IB results, but we'd also be interested in knowing what a student did in year 1 and year 2 of IB. So what has the academic path been over a period of time? We'll also ask for a list of co-curricular, extracurricular activities, the things you've done outside the classroom. I think oftentimes students thinks that means it needs to be leadership roles. It needs to be, I was the captain of this, I was the president of that. If you've served in those roles, yes, that's good for us to know. But if you've held a part-time job at McDonald's, it's also good for us to know that. Anything that has been a formal use of your time outside of the classroom is important for us to know about. We want to know the things that you are interested in, the things that you dedicate your time to, and the ways in which you manage your time in addition to your academic schoolwork. So be sure that you are as comprehensive as you can be in terms of sharing your co-curriculars. I shared with a group of students this morning that if you happen to spend 15 hours a day playing Minecraft, we don't really need to know that. That's not a formal use of your time. So be somewhat discerning in the way that you share with us what you do. We asked for writing samples, so there will be one long essay for you to complete for NUS College, as well as a short answer essay and 3 what we call quick takes. And quick takes are just sort of rapid fire 1 to 2 sentence responses, just for us to see the way your mind is working, and they're sort of fun questions to answer. And lastly is a letter of recommendation. The letter of recommendation is meant to be from an academic teacher, someone who knows you in the classroom and can tell us more about not only your performance in the classroom, but the way in which you interact with other students and your potential for academic growth in the university setting. Note that in the application form, when you're completing your application, you won't actually upload your recommendation letter. You will share with us the contact information of the person who will write your recommendation letter. And then we will reach out to that person and ask them to submit the letter directly to us. So you will want to approach somebody to write the letter on your behalf before you share their name with us, so that when they hear from us, they're not surprised. It's always nice for you to have gone and asked somebody to write on your behalf before you give us their name. Once you submit the name to us, we will contact them and ask them to submit the letter to us. From the point at which you've submitted their name to us, that person will then have 2 weeks to submit their letter. So again, it's important that you talk to them in advance so that they're aware that you've nominated them to write on your behalf. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what happens if you've already submitted your application? And that is the case for the majority of you today. So click to the next slide. No worries, you still have the opportunity to indicate interest in NUS College. So in order to access your NUS application and now show interest in NUS College, you're going to log into your applicant portal. The website is there for you. You might want to take a screenshot of this page. You'll click on the edit application record and then select indicate interest for NUS. It is very straightforward. And from there, you'll be given a blurb that introduces you to NUS College and asks if you'd like to be considered for NUS College. You simply answer yes. Once you answer yes, you'll be prompted to submit responses to those questions that I've just shared with you in terms of the rapid fire responses, the essays, and sharing information about somebody who will write a letter of recommendation for you. So it's quite straightforward. The most important thing is that you enter into the applicant portal and edit the application record so that you can say, yes, I'm interested in applying to NUS College. And if we flip to the next slide, we should have a screenshot there that shows you what this looks like. So this is another slide that you may want to take a quick screenshot of so you can see exactly what you want to click on with that circle telling you where you want to click. Okay, and on to the next slide. And this is just the application timeline. So many of you will have already started your application, so you know that your application portal is open. So I think we don't need to spend much time here. So with that, I think we can move into the Q&A section. So Loy, if you'd like to take the slides down, we'll come back to this at the end where you can actually take a shot of that QR code and give us some feedback on the session, but we'll wait until the end so you can give a full snapshot of how we've done. Excellent. Okay. So before we launch into the Q&A, I will let you know there are a few other people who are hiding in the background today who you may see join us to answer some of the questions. So I mentioned earlier that we have a few other professors who have been very active in helping us in the development of NUS College. So we have Prof. Kang Hui Chuan and Prof. Go Se Song. Both of whom have been very active and very helpful in the development of NUS College. Prof. Go is the Dean of Admissions for all of NUS. And Prof. Kong is the director of the USP program and has been instrumental in the development of admissions and a number of other parts of NUS College. So they're here to help us with questions. The first one that seems to have come up with great frequency, and I'm gonna pitch this one out to you, and whoever wants to take it is welcome to. Many students have asked about the possibility of doing double majors and/or double degrees if they join NUS College. So I wondered if one of you wouldn't mind helping to create some framework here about what is possible as an NUS College student in terms of double degrees, so in double majors.
Which one you want to do? Go first? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, okay. There are actually very many what I call multidisciplinary programs in NUS, double degrees, double majors, and the basic idea is that if you are doing, for example, pursuing a double major, those should be all okay. Okay. Now, if you're doing a double major is something like I see physics and chemistry, right, within the same College of Humanities and Sciences, or maybe philosophy and economics, or maybe even philosophy and mathematics. So all of those are courses of study that resides within one College of Humanities and Sciences, doesn't cut across two colleges in NUS. A different possibility might be economics and say mechanical engineering. So that would be one drawing from the College of Humanities and Sciences, and a degree and a course of study that's drawing from the College of Design and Engineering. Now, for these double degree programs, if your primary degree, if your primary course of study is within the College of Humanities and Sciences, or within the College of Design and Engineering, then it's okay. You could, for example, do econs as your primary degree and follow and want to do an additional course of study drawing from one of the possible majors in, say, the business school. Now, if your primary course of study is in the College of Humanities and Sciences, you're all right. But for this year, if your primary course of study is in, say, the School of Business, where NUS is still reviewing the ongoing transformation for the curriculum, for this year, that's not going to be possible. Okay, so so those are the general guidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
In short,
yeah.
Many of the double major possibilities will be available to NUS College students, but not all, because NUS is still undergoing education reform. So for those who are thinking of a primary major, primary degree in computing or in business, probably not yet, right? However, this doesn't mean that you literally cannot do it. We should qualify, okay? What it means is that you won't be able to do it within the normal kind of workload within 4 years. Actually, even before this, for many, many years, I know many students, very ambitious students, they couldn't take no for an answer. They went ahead and just do those modules nonetheless because they're willing to do more. Now you're, what I mean, remember earlier part of my talk, I said that to get NUS plus NUS College, you don't have to do more courses than regular NUS students. Still the same 4-year degree, right? But that doesn't mean that our students, they only do those things. So many of our students, in fact, graduate with many more modules, many more courses than they need for graduation. So we won't stop you. We'll just advise you to please make sure you have a life and don't do this like, the only thing you want to do is study, okay? That's the only advice I'll give, right? But actually it can be done, right? If you are willing to do the extra work, okay? I don't know, this may be more granular than we absolutely need to talk about today. Yeah.
Maybe let me just chip in a little bit about what Prof. Kang and Prof. Loy had said. Now, essentially, I think when at the point of application, you notice that there are certain upfront double degree, double major, minor combinations that some of you may have applied. And generally speaking, if your primary major is in the College of Humanities and Sciences, or your primary major is in the College of Design and Engineering, you want to do a double major with another faculty or within the same college, or you want to do a major minor combination, College of Design and Engineering, College of Humanities and Sciences, that is possible. No issue about that. Then for if your primary major is in, let's say, NUS Business School, or your primary major is in School of Computing. Now, the answer is not a no, just that we have to advise you to make sure that you have a life. This is what Prof. Loy is saying. And typically speaking, just in case you are wondering, what is the requirements for a minor? Minor is essentially 5 modules. So even if you do let's say computing or business, probably with a minor, you should have enough space in the unrestricted electives to do it without any difficulty, even if you are in both business or computing and in NUS College. So it's possible. And another thing I want to highlight is that the requirements for a second major is 10 modules. Now, total requirements for the entire degree is 40 modules. Now, some of you may feel that, I can't make up my mind whether can I commit 10 modules. It's okay to start from minor. We have this scalable kind of arrangement that after you have started off, you find that you can cope, you can manage, you come for us for academic advice, then you can actually upgrade into a second major. So that is something that is a good balance between having a life in the university and get to do more things. Yeah.
Great, thank you. That seemed to be a common question amongst many of our participants today. So that indicates to me that we have a high achieving, ambitious group of students with us today who are all gunning for double majors.
Take us seriously when we say, we have a lot of experience with this. A lot of students who come to us and say, I'm overloading, I'm doing this, and I say, please make sure you sleep enough and all that, please, okay?
Yes. I do think it's important advice to share with students is to remember that it's important to keep a balance, right? And particularly in your first year is to allow yourself to get settled and understand what university life is like. There was a student who was able to draw a connection between the curriculum, the common curriculum for NUS College and IB. That the IB curriculum seems similar just in terms of the breadth and variety of subjects. Loy, I don't know if you want to talk to that a little bit, because it's likely that we have a number of students joining us today who are coming from an IB background.
Yeah, my eldest daughter is in IB program actually. It's not intentional. I'll just say that it's not because we went to study the IB. I didn't come from IB thing, right? Hui Chuan and Sei Song, I don't think either of you know. Yeah, No, we didn't create this sort of like, looking at IB and asking ourselves what to do next. But it is not surprising that there will be this overlap actually, because IB shares a very an overlapping kind of spirit with the kinds of stuff that we are interested in doing. Not necessarily because the two sides somehow are friends or each other or anything, but there's a certain way of thinking about education that is that really believes in making sure that everyone should go through it. They should have a certain kind of broad-minded foundation. After that, they can specialize in whatever they want. People should still specialize, but even the deeper specialists need that kind of breadth, need a kind of the spread of knowledge that will make the person an effective citizen in the world, right? So there is a sense in which the people who created the IB thing, they have a bit of that kind of background, right? So it's not surprising that there is this happy coincidence, right? But we didn't create our program by looking at the IB program, if that's what you're thinking of. So if you think that because you come from IB, this is a little bit more sort of like in your spirit, yeah, I can believe that, but I cannot guarantee that your life will therefore be easier than the A-level guy. So don't get the wrong ideas, okay? You don't necessarily have a advantage in the literal sense, because you still need to work. It is still university. College is not the same as pre-U. Okay, so you do have to don't get complacent, right? And that's another way of saying that if you come from A-levels, you come from some other program, no, you're not disadvantaged, okay? As long as you are open-minded, as long as you don't see yourself as restricted by, you don't think of yourself, oh my goodness, I've always only studied X and how can I possibly do anything else? If that's your mindset, then it's hard, right? It's hard. It's not that you cannot do it, it's that emotionally you're not even putting yourself into that kind of situation. So my advice to everyone, IB or otherwise, is come to us if you see that, yeah, I want that kind of open-mindedness and I'm willing to take this as an adventure. Yeah.
Great. Along those lines, in terms of a wide range of academic subjects being taught, one student asked, basically, how will professors ensure that if students come from an academic background, perhaps where they're not as well versed in a certain subject, that they're able to perform in the classroom with students coming from a different academic background, that perhaps their peers are better prepared, so to say? How will there be an equilibrium in the classroom when they're taking those courses together?
Okay, I'm going to share from the point of view of almost like a practitioner, because I've been teaching these kinds of classes for some time by now. For some years, I've been teaching roughly speaking, a kind of a humanities type module course in the scholars program in the interdisciplinary, sort of elective tier. My best students are not always humanities students. They are often just some science student who is so passionate about, willing to try, right? And it is true that a lot of it is not about how well prepared you are. How well prepared you are is one part of the equation, but how interested you are is actually a very, very important part of the equation, right? Now, so that's on the student side. But what about the professor side? What do we do? Now, there is a general strategy that we adopt, and I think that it's going to continue because it has kind of worked, at least in the USP, and we know that we can make it work. Even if you're offering a module that is maybe a little bit more weighted towards a particular thing, maybe you're offering the physics module, maybe you're offering the philosophy module in NUS College under the elective tier, we expect that module to take people through the paces, right? We expect them to make sure you bring people from zero to whatever they need in order to tackle that particular topic. And the reason why this can be done is precisely because those modules are not designed as disciplinary foundational modules. They are not designed to turn you into the next mathematician. They are not designed to make you become a philosopher, they are designed with particular topics in mind. Maybe we're looking at the human mind. Maybe we're looking at the financial crisis, or maybe we're looking at Singapore's response to pandemic, whatever. A certain topic where we can bring various kinds of tools to apply to understand it and to solve problems in it, right? And in order for you to do that, you do need to learn a bit of the required science or whatever it is you need, but you don't need to know everything, right? And that narrow part of it that you need to know, we will make sure we teach you, okay? And just because that maybe your classmate is a little bit already more acclimatized to that particular part of it because maybe he's a science student, guess what? It's okay because there are other parts, other lenses, other disciplinary lenses that we had to bring together to look at these topics that that guy is not familiar with, that you are familiar with. Okay, so I think that I would say that keep an open mind and not to worry. And so far, from my experience, we don't really have a problem with this, right? We often have many students who supposedly come from an arts background, they end up excelling in the science classes, but nonetheless, they still continue with the arts major and vice versa. So this is not something that is news to us. I don't think you should worry about that, but you must be ready to keep an open mind, right?
Great, thank you, Prof. Loy. A question about the global experiences, and just to clarify, how will the global experiences offered at NUS College differ from those offered for students at NUS who are not part of NUS College?
Shall I continue? It's always me.
Please, Loy, please continue.
So this is, in one sense, is okay. So NUS College will be part of NUS, right? So we make sure we share good stuff, okay? You know, so some of the exchange arrangements may not even be necessarily sort of created by NUS College. It could be something from the regular faculty, the main faculty, and all that. So yeah. So in that sense, if you go on one of those exchanges to fulfill the NUS College global experience, then of course you're not doing something that is literally different from your next door neighbor. Let's say maybe you are from, I don't know, history department, and the history department has an exchange agreement with some place in Europe, and then you are from NUS College and you make use of that. Your other classmate from history also made use of that. You went for the same exchange program, right? You know, so those kinds will be the same. Okay. Now, however, here are two important places, and the other one is NOC, and it's the same kind of a story. But here are two places in which it's different. Number one, there will be some exchange agreements that are made specially by NUS College, right? They are only accessible to NUS College students, right? So there's a particular tie-up with a particular place, I don't know, in Amsterdam, and the only ones who get to go are NUS College students. And your classmate from your other history classmate, no, I mean, he can't access that one. Okay, so there are particular exchanges, and typically we will be making exchange agreements with kind of counterpart honors college-like entities. That'll be my guess, right? We have some of those already. We have a long-standing one in USP with Zhejiang University in China. We have one from with Beida also. So these are specially arrange agreements that only NUS College students will have access to. The rest don't have. Then the second one is the global path rating, right? That one is only for NUS College students, right? So these are those 5 cities, 6, we'll expand them, 5 cities in the world where we have the specially created thing. We're going to give you a fellowship to go for those who want to go, who compete to go, specially curated itinerary, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. No. That one is only for, it will be creating that as a flagship for our people. Okay. Now, actually, there's a third item as well. Over and above these kinds of things, there will also be particular modules that are offered within NUS College. There's an overseas component, right? We have a faculty member who, he does all this field research in Thailand, upstate Thailand. In fact, there's more than one of them, right? Another one who likes to go to Greece, bring people to look at the Pantheon and all that. So if they run these modules, which are NUS College modules, then obviously only NUS College students get to go. Okay, yeah.
Maybe let me just add a few words to rescue Loy for answering all the questions. Let me give an overarching principle that NUS actually has. That is in terms of overseas experience. Now, we want our students in the whole of NUS to have overseas experience. There's university-wide like student exchange program open to all students. NUS Overseas College. Now, that is for entrepreneurship, open to students from different faculties. But at the same time, we also want bottom-up initiatives from the respective colleges to have their own unique brand of overseas experiences. And that's where I think different colleges or different faculties, they have certain exclusive programs for themselves. And NUS College, and having an emphasis on the global experience, they have a very rich suite of unique overseas experiences program. And that is something that you can consider. So in short, we are giving a student a plethora of choices, a wide variety of choices. Pick what you like, pick what suits you, and that is how you can enhance your study. So that's the way to think about it as a whole.
Great. And Prof. Go, since you took the spotlight off of Prof. Loy for a minute, I'm going to let you keep that spotlight. And one of this, a student asked if they are not able to gain admission to NUS College, right. Essentially what happens with their application? Will they still be considered for other colleges and other courses at NUS? Sure. Can you help to explain that, please?
Yes. Okay. In terms of the application process, like I said, NUS College is an honors college, is an add-on. So in other words, every student will still have their home faculty, your home course. So in your application form of your 8 choices, you have indicated 8 choices of your home course. So what we will do is that we will still assess you for the 8 choices that you have indicated. We will try to give you as high a choice as possible. And at the same time, it's a concurrent assessment. We will assess you after you have indicated your interest for NUS College as well. So if you have you are successful in your selection, in the selection process for NUS College, then you will be given and we'll look at your choices. So the whole idea here is that we want to give you the highest possible choice that you have. And if that is compatible with NUS College, we'll offer you that course together with NUS College concurrently. And in the unfortunate event that if you have indicated interest for NUS College, but you are not successful, no worries, we will still consider you for your other choices. We will not have any prejudice against you that because you indicated for NUS College, so therefore you will be ranked lower. No, we will still do it concurrently, independently of NUS College. But from the point of view of your application, it's transparent to you, and we will give you the best possible outcome that you're eligible for.
Great, thank you, Prof. Go. And Prof. Kong, I don't want you to think that we've forgotten about you over there. So I'll spread the wealth. One student is asking about if you can give a brief breakdown of the difference between NUS College and some of the other residential colleges within University Town. What is the difference here in a nutshell?
Okay. In a nutshell, it goes like this, right? That the term college is used in a number of different ways internally in NUS. And I think this is a very good question because it helps us to try to distinguish these ways. So for example, we have the College of Humanities and Sciences and the College of Design and Engineering. What these are in the old-fashioned terminologies, these are like faculties, right? So for example, the College of Humanities and Sciences consists of the Faculty of Science and the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, with the departments of chemistry, physics, economics, philosophy, etc. The College of Design and Engineering consists of the faculty, in the old days, the Faculty of the School of Design and Engineering and the Faculty of Engineering. So it consists of departments such as industrial design, architecture, mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, etc. Okay, so that's at one level at which we're applying term college. In some ways, the NUS College is using the term college in a very similar way to this. Your degree, when you come to NUS and you graduate, your degree will be from one of the colleges, from one of the faculties. The NUS College will not be the body giving you your degree, but we'll be in charge of taking care of your common curriculum within your degree package. So if you're a student in mechanical engineering, your major modules will be done in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at the College of Design and Engineering, and your common curriculum will be done at the NUS College. All right. So very, very quickly, the NUS College is an academic unit, right? The residential colleges, such as Tembusu and College of Alice and Peter Tan, the RC4, those are residential colleges, meaning that the thrust of those places is residential life and housing. So students stay in those residential colleges. So for example, if you go to Tembusu, you'll find students from the College of Design and Engineering, College of Humanities and Sciences. You'll find people who are studying business. You'll find people who are studying law. So they live there. There is the residential activity, residential life. So that's what Tembusu is about. And the students who live in the residential colleges will take some of their general education modules from within the offerings of the residential college, right? To try to flesh this out a little bit more, at steady state, NUS College will have 4 residential colleges within NUS College. So there's the Cinnamon, and then there are 3 colleges that will be at the Yale NUS campus. So currently there's Chandana, there's Saga, there's Elm. So these are residential colleges that in some ways will be parked under NUS College as the residential colleges where the students of NUS College live. So you need to make a distinction between a college as an academic unit and a college as a residential college. Yeah.
Thank you. That was a very detailed response to a complicated question. So you got some silence for a few minutes, but then you got a doozy of a question. I want to let the attendees know that we have about 15 minutes left, so please do continue to put in your questions. Also note that I am selecting questions that are a bit more general in nature rather than those that are very specific to your circumstances. And so if you have questions that are very specific to your application or your particular choice of program, please feel free to email us with individual questions. I'm trying to select questions that will be beneficial to the group on a whole. And at the end, we'll put up our email address again so that if you have individual questions, you can contact us directly. I think this is a very insightful question, and I'm very curious to get your responses on this as faculty members. And I'm going to read it exactly as it was submitted. It says, in liberal arts colleges, professors have less research workload and can focus more on teaching. In research universities like NUS, professors have a heavy research workload and their performance is mainly assessed by the quality of their research, so they have less time to focus on teaching. How will NUS ensure that teaching quality is high in NUS College? Yeah,
so good question. So as a...
We don't sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't sleep. There's one part of the answer. Now, NUS actually has 2 very different tracks of people today. Now, this wasn't the case when I was a student, or even for the matter 10, 15 years ago. It wasn't quite like this. We have a separate track of people called educator track. So yes, we are a major research university, not just here in Singapore, but in the world. Okay, so we are ranked very highly, and we care a lot about the research output. And if you're on a tenure track, we do expect you to carry the burden of making sure that we are on the map when it comes to research. Okay, so we really, really want high quality, highly impactful research. We expect that of our tenure track professors. What about educator track? We expect them to carry the peak of excellence for teaching, right? So they're not just here to fill to do the work that the other professors want to do. No. We hire them because we know that these are the people who are going to carry the torch of education leadership, education innovation going forward, right? They're going to teach more, and they are not going to be assessed primarily in terms of their research, even though many of them actually continue to do a lot of research, just to be clear about this. In fact, a lot of our educator track people do a lot of research, but their main kind of the agenda is going to be an education agenda, and they are assessed and promoted all the way to full professor even on that basis, right? And I actually believe that NUS probably has one of the world's most progressive educator tracks in the world, bar none actually. Okay, I know this because I'm actually on some of these evaluation committees and all that. So now NUS College will hold a significant number of full-time faculty members who are hired as educator track people. Why? Because we are primarily an education unit. we are yes, we are going to be part of a larger research university. NUS is a research university, but NUS College, like several other places in NUS, is primarily an education thing, right? We are not going to be judged on the basis of research. We are going to be judged on the excellence of our education, whatever we might say about it. So obviously, in order to drive that, we will have many high quality education track people among our midst. But this doesn't mean that just because someone is on tenure track, they don't care about teaching. In case you're wondering, both Prof. Goh, myself, and Prof. Kang, we're all tenure track people. But why do you think we're here? Because we are that tenure track person. We got tenure. We care a lot about education, actually, right? That's one of the reasons why we are all directly or indirectly involved in this kind of project, right? So there are going to be some tenure track people who will be teaching classes, probably not as many classes as the educated track people in NUS College, but they will be there as well. But they will be there because they are interested in teaching these interdisciplinary classes for these students, right? Not because they want to run a lab or something. They want to run a lab, they go run a lab somewhere, right? They want to publish the next high impact journal article. That's fantastic. They will do that. But if they're going to be working in NUS College for any degree at all, it's because they are like, no, I want to make sure that our students really get this interdisciplinary education thing. And that's the reason why they're going to be involved with us as well, right? This has always been the case in the Scholars Program. And in a certain sense, even though NUS doesn't have the same system, right, until now, there's a certain similar ethos as well. Many of the professors there, they care a lot about education. And that's the reason why they are in the NUS in the first place, right? And we want to continue to inherit that mantle. So I hope that you understand how NUS's strategy is to make sure this happens, right? One part of it is the creation of a high value, very progressive educated track. But of course, second part is to make sure that we do have units like NUS College, or for that matter, some of the other residential colleges or whatever, that's primarily the main mission is the education mission. It's not a research mission, okay? Yeah. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
Lloyd, maybe I can add something. So as Prof. Lloyd has said, right, we traditionally draw for the teaching at NUS College. We're going to draw from both people who are full-time faculty at NUS College and also people who are full-time faculty in the rest of the university. So you, in a sense, you get the best of both worlds within just the common curriculum of your of what you need to do while you're at NUS. But that's not all, right? I really want to point out that when you come to NUS, you have to take a set of modules in your major, you have to take a set of modules in your common curriculum. If you're a student who is enrolled in NUS College, of course your major, if you are majoring in chemistry, your chemistry modules will be at the chemistry department. It's your common curriculum, the interdisciplinary portion, the foundational skills portion, the emphasis on global and impact experience portion, that portion will be at the NUS College, okay? So you will, in a sense, be doing the same major as anyone else, as what Prof. Lloyd says, as a regular chemistry students who are not in NUS College. So I also want to point out that, there are some students who are worried about how much space is left over in your unrestricted elective in order for you to pursue a greater depth in your major. This question has come up before, and I know some of you are extremely ambitious, some of you are extremely interested in your major. There is always room to do that. Yeah, just let me say that the size of the major in NUS is not considerably smaller or than, say, someplace like a research powerhouse, let's say someplace like University of Chicago. If you go major in chemistry in University of Chicago, you take probably a few modules fewer than the chemistry department in NUS, right? So clearly will prepare you, the majors in NUS will prepare you extremely well for postgraduate studies. So you don't have to worry about that. And in addition, the space has left over in the unrestricted elective, even after you have taken out the modules for the NUS College, that space is more than enough for you to pursue very many things. So for example, some faculty members, such as me, we regularly take on students who are very interested in particular, very specialized topics in chemistry, and they want to do that in postgraduate school, right? So those concerns about going to postgraduate schools, those concerns about the scholarship that's being brought to bear in the teaching in the classroom at NUS College, those are no worries. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that gives a great framework for students. We've received a couple of questions, and I'll be happy to respond to this one about the demographics of the students. And likely we have a lot of international students joining us today, and questions about whether local students or international students will be given preference in the application process and so forth. Our hope is that around a quarter of the students in the first cohort will be international students. And our ambition is to have a diverse group of international students. And so along with having a diversity of academic experience, we feel like the educational experience will be enhanced for everybody if there's diversity of background amongst the students as well. That's really important to the educational model, and that will only enhance the experience that students have academically and socially. So we are very eager to welcome students from a variety of different backgrounds, and international students, of course, may be coming from outside of Singapore, may be coming from schools within Singapore. You know, whatever your background is, there's no advantage or disadvantage of your personal background. What we're looking for is students who show the right fit for NUS College, those students who have that academic motivation that will flourish in the program. And so rest assured that whatever your background is, your application will be looked at very seriously and with full consideration in terms of the ways in which you will excel and contribute to NUS College. So our commitment is certainly to welcome international students. And in fact, the proportion of international students at NUS College, we anticipate will be larger than the proportion of international students at NUS on a whole, because of our belief that it will enhance the program for NUS College. Anything that my fellow panelists would like to add to that? No? Okay, excellent. Let me see here. We have maybe time for one or two more questions before we wrap up. One question is just about the overseas experiences, and this perhaps we'll need to rub off our crystal ball here in terms of what we anticipate will happen as a regard to the pandemic. Will overseas experiences happen? And if not, what might take their place if people aren't able to travel overseas?
Well, maybe I can start this off, right? First of all, yeah, like Laura is saying, we can't really tell what's gonna happen with Omicron, and in some ways we push the envelope. The university pushes the envelope for travel. Of course, on questions of travel and these sorts of things, we always have to figure out what the Ministry of Health and Immigration does, and also we have to be very mindful of the restrictions and the constraints in other countries that we would like to go to. Okay, so that sets the background for what we want to do. In the last 2 years, what have we been doing? We have been doing a lot on Zoom. We have been meeting. So in a way, it's clearly not as satisfactory and clearly not as enjoyable. Clearly not as elevating as going to a place and seeing with your own eyes in person and talking to people and picking up different pieces and clues and information and interaction with people elsewhere. But what we've been doing for the last 2 years have been on Zoom. And in addition to doing those things that in some ways, second order, not so great, but necessary to do in that way, we've also been working very hard on getting programs ready. So the instant that places like MOH and ICA and immigration and other countries open up immediately, we will be able to hit the ground running. So there's no question about that. Yeah, as many of you might expect, right? NUS really works very hard behind the scenes on these kinds of things, so that we're efficient and we're fast all the time. Yeah.
The limiting factor is not NUS. The limiting factor is really just the world. It really is just the situation in the world, right? But already, in the last few months, compared to a year before that, we can begin to see some movements already. So some of our students are actually overseas right now. They are on exchange right now. And I was just asking my RAs, my residential assistants, are there any exchange students living here? And they say, yeah, like we already receive a few exchange students coming in here already.
Yeah, I've met a whole bunch of exchange students in Cinnamon already for this semester.
But we don't get to have exchange students here unless some of ours go, right? So
right, yeah. And then our students are, there was another one who is just leaving for University of North Carolina today, I think. Yeah, so yeah, so as and when the world opens up, I think.
Yeah, this already semester, we're already seeing more students going for overseas student exchange. So probably when all of you enroll in NUS, the situation, I mean, of course, keep our fingers crossed that yes, Lloyd, thank you for crossing the fingers. Hopefully things will be better. But this current semester, which we are already seeing more students going overseas for the experience.
Get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Vaccinated, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've just now hit the mark of 3:30, and I like ending on that positive note of things are going to get better and let's all get vaccinated. So that seems like a perfect ending to this session. Lori, if I can ask you to bring up just that last slide for a moment. I want to take a moment just to thank my fellow panelists for being here, those who are on camera, and also thank those who are off camera who have been busy answering lots of questions behind the scenes. And also thank all of the students who have joined us today. I know we've answered a lot of questions and there are some that we have not yet gotten to. I apologize for that, but you can contact us. You can see our email addresses there, ncadmissions@nus.edu.sg. Please feel free to send us any questions that you have that weren't addressed or new questions that come to mind. We are also now on Instagram. You can follow us at NUS College on Instagram. We'll be posting updates about the program. We'll also be posting updates about future sessions that we will be offering online, including some that will be led by students where you'll be able to learn more about student perspective on NUS College. So if you see postings about future events, please don't make the assumption that it'll be exactly the same as what we've done today. There may be some new content coming up, so feel free to join us for future sessions. And lastly, you'll see the QR code there, which is a quick survey that we would really appreciate if you would take just a few minutes to complete to give us feedback on how this session went, if it gave you the information that you needed, ways in which we can improve so that future students can continue to get good information from us. So if you can take out your phones and just complete that survey, that would be wonderful. So with that, we will wrap up the session. And again, just want to thank you all for joining us and wish you best in your university applications. We're here to answer any questions that you may have. We're very excited about the development of NUS College and hope that you are too. And we're going to look forward to seeing your applications. So I wish you well for the rest of your Saturday. And thanks again for being here. We'll wrap things up now. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Good to see everyone.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.